So I've been having some dreams the last few days, but most of them are not really worth discussing because they're very short or I don't remember much of what happened. I do recall that almost every dream I've had this past week has to do with me being inside an airplane, flying, or being inside a spacecraft of some kind. And one of them is somewhat noteworthy in that I was in this very odd, bubbly looking airplane, and the spatial dimensions on the outside did not match the inside at all. And what I mean by that is it was far larger on the inside the plane than it appeared on the outside. And I started flying, and I remember my mom was there. But it's just something to take note of. Um, Dreams of planes and aircrafts. Yesterday, I had a dream that I was on what looked like Earth and was very similar to Earth, but it was clearly another dimension. And I just wanted to point out before I get into it that ever since I was a child, I loved imagining places that I would create in my mind. So much so to the point where I would draw entire maps, detailed maps of cities, for example, or of worlds. And I would imagine every detail about that society. And sometimes it would be a region of our world that I would reconfigure and create my own sort of civilization, and other times I would imagine other worlds, and other times I would imagine other beings. And I still do this to a degree where at night I would imagine other versions of Earth. For example, if Russia fused with Alaska, if Europe was much closer to North America, if Africa is where North America is, and North America is where Africa is, how would things have turned out differently? And it's really interesting to kind of imagine all the possible outcomes. And this isn't just the physical attributes that would develop in that particular reality dimension. There's also something called, that I call, quantum oscillating harmonics. A lot of people in the community, they use the word frequency, vibration. I call it quantum oscillating harmonics, meaning it's a harmony. Every realm, every dimension has its own specific, unique tune. It's like it's like a rhythm or a symphony that is oscillating and resonating with the environment. And that resonance uh, is directly linked to the type of consciousness and what emerges out of that realm. So when people refer to low or high vibration, what they're really referring to is vibrating strings. And those vibrating strings um, tune a specific frequency that a sort of assembles form. And after that form is assembled, it assembles the consciousness that would inhabit that form, or it links the spirit to the consciousness with that specific resonance. So when I've seen other dimensions of Earth in out of body experiences in dreams, What's really noteworthy is not necessarily the physical appearance, which oftentimes is very similar to here, but it could have a completely different oscillating quantum harmonics, which I'm aware that the term on its own doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But if you look at it with spiritual eyes, it does. So, in this particular realm that I was in, I was traveling throughout Mexico City region with my wife and son. And take note that my uncle and cousin do live in Mexico City, and I have extensively traveled throughout Mexico. I've never been to Mexico City though, and I also do have a lot of extended family on my father's side that live in South America, particularly Argentina. And dimensionally, I think South America is has a lot of doorways and portals. And not only that, I personally feel that Central and South America are the heart of the earth. This is the heart of Gaia. And I've had many dreams, many of Latin America. I have some sort of connection to these particular regions, to this particular form of consciousness that develops in these regions. And so I'm traveling throughout this region, and I'm noticing very, very sharp, drastic changes in the environment, sudden. You could have that, for example, if you're in the desert and you're going up into a mountain, and like in Arizona, for example, you could have saguaro cacti, and then you drive up to the mountain and you have forests, and it could be snowing and freezing. This was even more extreme than that. So I'm traveling and I'm in a bone dry desert, nothing growing. And the next second, I'm in a forested environment. And in particular, I notice very odd looking grass that I've never seen here. And this grass was like 20 feet tall. It was like bamboo. And on the ends of it, it looked like palm leaves. So imagine grass, and the tips of the grass had palm leaves instead of just normal spear like structures. And so I'm driving down this highway. So there was highways, there was cars, and I'm noticing people, and there was very large houses, very, very large houses. And they were weird because they had like, instead of a house being colored one color, it had like orange here and green here and black. And it's like this, it was so strange to see like multiple colors on each wall on these houses. And I'm traveling around, and I'm starting to understand that I'm part of some kind of organization, like some kind of religious affiliation or something, that I'm not just traveling with my family, but we have to go see someone or do something. And so we come upon this factory, and a bunch of people come out, and they look Latin American, but they're completely white skinned. So there's no brown skin. And we start communicating with them, and like I mentioned earlier about the quantum oscillating harmonics, so this realm was very, very highly charged emotionally. So the communication, emotions are extreme on earth. Imagine multiplying that by 4, and you just feel everything this person is saying and internalize it to such a degree that you're kind of processing every single syllable they say. And this realm, in that sense, seemed like it was a bit more evolved than ours, or at the very least, different in that sense, that there was a different form of communication that seemed more heart to heart rather than mind to mind like we often do here. So, and they were explaining like they were in a lot of distress. They said something extremely specific. So, they said that they were processing fertilizer and that they were running out of red phosphorus and that they're about to run out. And so that this factory has to be shut down. So the military came in and shut down the factory because they were no longer able to make fertilizer. So without the fertilizer, they would be unable to grow crops and such. So we're communicating with them and trying to figure out a solution to this problem. Anyway, I found that interesting because there was some kind of quantum entanglement between our dimension and theirs because I've read about this years back actually that the earth will be very low on red phosphorus by the 2040s, and you guys all know that I believe we're heading into doomsday far before that. But in case we don't, we'll be very low on fertilizer ourselves. So I'm just kind of wondering if this dimension is trying to communicate this message to us here about our issue with fertilizer and farming and things like that. I just found it strange. Like, I remember very clearly him saying red phosphorus. So, other than that, I don't remember much what happened. We continued driving on, and I could tell you it looked nothing like I've seen videos on Mexico City. I know what it looks like. It looked very different. It was the same region because I also saw it from space in some moments. So it was different, but it was the same region that we would see here on Earth. So I hope to see some other more interesting dimensions in the future. Thank you.